Good morning. I'm Jane Pauley, and this is a special edition of Sunday Morning by Design. We're in the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, as America prepares to celebrate its 250th birthday in just a few weeks. The Declaration of Independence was written and signed here in 1776. So was the Constitution in 1787. Philadelphia boasts some of our nation's oldest homes. Betsy Ross lived here, and this is the oldest existing block of homes in all of these United States. 250 plus years of history and style, emblematic of our never-ending quest to live better, which helps explain why we'll be spending the morning at this early 1900s home on Philadelphia's fabled Main Line. Ardrossan, a mansion with roots in the Gilded Age. Back then, this was state-of-the-art, a signpost of modern times, the very best money could buy. An all-American quest, which Lee Cowan reminds us, continues to this very day.
The nuclear family used to be at the center of designing a dwelling, but that's been shifting.
That idea that you lived alone on your land, it's kind of a holdover from some, European colonial ideal.
Today, many single-family lots can legally include more than just a single family. Sharing our castles, ahead on Sunday Morning.
Back in 1977, the movie Star Wars introduced us to a world of style all its own. This month, a new Star Wars film is coming to theaters, and its director, actor Jon Favreau, will be talking with our Tracy Smith.
I actually don't know who to trust right now.
He's the actor who also directed Iron Man, Elf, and now The Mandalorian and Grogu. And he's giving us a very special behind-the-scenes tour.
Wow. Do you have Star Wars fans come in here and their head just explodes?
Well, most people don't, get to come in here. But
The Force, that is Jon Favreau, later on Sunday Morning.
Louis Vuitton, the name has become synonymous with luxury. But what makes a label a legend? We sent Alina Cho to Paris to find out.
We need to place the monogram correctly.
For this sixth-generation member of the Louis Vuitton family, no detail is too small.
It's like a secret recipe, huh?
We have some secrets.
Past and present at the House of Vuitton, coming up this Sunday morning.
You can't pay a visit to Philly without sampling some of its culinary delights. Susan Spencer this morning has an enviable and tasty task.
Some designs are timeless. Take the Philadelphia pretzel.
If I had walked into this place 50 years ago, how would it be different?
It really wouldn't. Our recipe has never changed. Flour, yeast, and water.
Flour, yeast, and water, that's it.
That is it.
From pretzels to hoagies to the Philadelphia cheesesteak, designing classic Philly foods. Later on Sunday Morning.
Also ahead on this Sunday Morning by Design. Seth Doan checks in from Finland, home of fashion and lifestyle brand Marimekko. Mo Rocca sheds light on why few decorative items say opulence and glamour, quite like chandeliers. Jim Axelrod tours Longwood Gardens, one of Philadelphia's most beloved natural treasures. Connor Knighton explores why the ancient mud and brick mixture known as Adobe has become today's building material. David Pogue meets a young artist for whom Domino's is more than just a game. And much more from Philadelphia. We'll be right back. Philadelphia is known for all types and styles of homes, few as memorable as this one, Ardrossan. You might describe it as the embodiment of the Gilded Age, an era of opulence. Today, at a time when the quest for owning a home of your own is increasingly elusive, Lee Cowan shows us one solution almost anyone can find right in your own backyard.
This is insane. When the Alameda Fire tore through the Rogue Valley in southern Oregon back in 2020, it took thousands of homes with it. The result wasn't just a moonscape, but a housing crisis on top of an already tight rental market. Artist and contractor Jacob Fry and his wife Elise,
hi, horsies,
were spared the flames, but not the desire to help. They had to do something. So they took out a loan to build 2 small rental units in their own yard.
So this was never about getting extra income, or
it was more about the community and like needing infill housing for people that had been displaced. Really was the main thing.
They're called ADUs, accessory dwelling units, small, fully functional secondary homes located on the same property as the main home, usually in the backyard. They've been called granny flats, carriage houses, or mother-in-law suites.
Start planning your ADU today.
A wave of reforms have made it faster, cheaper, and in theory anyway, legally simpler to add these ADUs almost anywhere. In California, at least 3 modest-sized units are now allowed on a single-family lot. Now, they can't be used as short-term rentals, so no Airbnb-ing. The law allows for only long-term tenants, and it's become a booming industry.
It's had more impact than any other housing law in the last 10, 12 years.
in what way?
Well, there are 82,000 building permits right now in California.
82,000?
Yeah.
Dana Cuff, professor of architecture and urban design at UCLA, helped push the original legislation through. We met her in her ADU.
So where we're sitting used to be your backyard.
That's right.
All this used to be your
That's
backyard.
right. There was kind of a half-dead citrus tree probably right here and a tree house for our kids. And, you know, we did lose something in building the house, but we gained a lot more.
They rent their original home to mostly young tenants just starting out, and they live in the ADU, designed by her husband to fit like a Tetris piece onto their long, skinny lot.
Sprawl has hit the wall now, so you can't keep going out. So then, I mean, the beauty of that from an environmental and a housing and an urban perspective is that then you start building back in.
It will come as no surprise when you're talking about building in backyards, there are plenty of not in my backyard critics.
This is not granny flats. This is not helping people.
Some argue parking, sewer, garbage, the infrastructure designed for single-family homes, is being stretched too thin. But in the aftermath of those Oregon fires, the Frys saw an opportunity.
They say, if you want to test your marriage, buy IKEA furniture, build an ADU.
It worked out. The Frys' marriage survived, and so did the rental income from the ADUs. In fact, the buildings have almost paid for themselves, even though they continue to rent them at well below market value.
We want things to be affordable, so that we can get people in that might not otherwise be able to get a decent situation with a decent landlord.
Both the tenants that live here now are like young newlyweds, like they're in their early 20s and they both just got married.
If this hadn't been an option for you, where do you think you guys would have been?
Probably still at our parents' houses.
It's compact living to be sure, but if you design an ADU right, it can feel much bigger than it sounds.
Make it nice.
Jared Weber, Katriana Bowser-Smith, and their 9-month-old daughter Miller have been living in these 400 square feet, happily, for nearly 3 years now.
We've tried to look at other places just to even see what there is still on the market, and there's nothing comparable to what we have.
So it's small, but it's enough.
It's perfect.
It's perfect, yeah.
So I don't feel cramped at all. I feel like I have a lot of space for one old lady.
Down the coast in Los Angeles, 72-year-old Mona Field turned her garage into a 2-bedroom ADU.
So were you using your garage before?
The garage was everybody and their brother's storage. Everywhere I look, I see green, so I like that.
But she didn't build the ADU for tenants. She built it for herself.
I knew I did not want to stay, aging in a big house by myself. And there's Miss Ruth.
The ADU was her retirement home, which allowed her to offer her house as affordable housing for her daughter.
Raise your hand.
Raise your hand if you're having fun.
And her family.
Do you want to help, baby?
Nadine Levyfield, her husband, Charlie Marshak, and their 2 small kids.
What is that?
A microphone.
But there was still a question, one asked by almost everyone in the ADU space.
Even though we had separate spaces, would we be able to, cohabitate on the same property in a functional way?
The answer, for them anyway, has been a resounding yes.
We have regular standing dinners with my mom and the kids. My mom helps with childcare. We spend time together. We say, hey, do you want to join us for a stroller walk?
Which is really a gift.
It's amazing.
goodness,
We're
yeah.
so grateful.
Oh, there you are. Well, now you're getting the fun part.
It used to be a home in the suburbs with a white picket fence and 2-car garage was all anyone would want. Today, people need housing more than cars, and backyard barbecues might not need an entire backyard. They may not be for everyone, but these days, every square foot matters. ADUs offer a different lifestyle for a different age.
We have to start imagining new ways of living together well.
You'd be hard-pressed to find a better example of Gilded Age-inspired opulence than Ardrossan. It's the last great estate on Philadelphia's storied Main Line, where prominent industrial and banking families built lavish country homes along the Pennsylvania Railroad in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. The work of architect Horace Trumbauer, Ardrossan was built in 1911 for Colonel Robert Montgomery and his wife Hope, and named for an ancestral town in Scotland. Known as the Big House, this Georgian-style residence spans 33,000 square feet and boasts an impressive 50 rooms across 3 floors. Reminders of Ardrossan's deeply rooted family history are present throughout its walls, where nearly every one of the 44 portraits depicts a Montgomery ancestor. Perhaps most impressive is an extensive needlepoint collection. The intricate and elaborate designs, hand-stitched by Mrs. Montgomery herself, but Ardrossan's influence extended well beyond the main line. The Montgomery family and the estate were the inspiration for the Philadelphia story. First a Broadway play in 1939, then the following year a film starring Katharine Hepburn.
I don't want to be worshipped. I want to be loved.
4 generations of Montgomerys have now called Ardrossan home, continuing a legacy and preserving a time capsule to a bygone era that still defines this privately owned estate more than a century later. Game night was a big deal here at Ardrossan. Backgammon was popular, perhaps on occasion dominoes too. David Pogue introduces us to an artist with the most animated body of work.
Some people use dominoes like this, and some use dominoes like this.
A domino artist is someone who sets up dominoes in intricate structures and patterns, and then you knock them all down.
Lily Hevish may be the world's greatest domino artist.
You can make walls, towers, set them up sideways, and they topple or they flip over or they go in a certain direction.
What kind of person does it take to be a great domino builder?
You need patience and perseverance. Even if something falls over by accident, start rebuilding it. Those are actually the moments that are going to support you in growing as a builder and as a person.
You're spending hours basically on your hands and knees.
Sometimes my back will start hurting, so I've been doing a lot more stretches. I've also been seeing a physical therapist. I'm getting older, I guess.
Now that you're 27.
Yeah.
You might say that the domino effect of Hevish's life began with her birth.
I was born in China, and I was adopted when I was age 1. My parents raised me in New Hampshire in a very small town. I was the only Asian person in my elementary school.
Today, Hevish makes a living from 3 sources. First, YouTube, where her videos have been watched over 2 billion times. Second,
companies will hire me to do live events, trade shows, workshops. I've done things for Hollywood movies. And if you don't have dominoes...
Finally, she's the only person on Earth with her own branded line of dominoes.
With our dominoes, we have this added surface texture that when it topples, it grips onto the next domino so that when it's knocking down in a curve, for example, it's not going to go out of place and hit something else. And you get to control the topple a lot more.
Do you ever think about where this goes from here?
What I'm working on now is creating domino clubs all across the world. Like when I do workshops with schools, a lot of the time the teachers will say, like, this is like the most I've seen the kids focus.
What is the human thing that makes it so cool to watch?
I think it's because people love, in some weird ways, things that get destroyed. But it's getting destroyed in a really beautiful way.
For Sunday Morning, Lily Hevish built something special for me to destroy.
It's going to go all the way around the circle. We have these split-offs here that are angled, so all of these orange rays will go outwards.
This one's for Lily. Perfect!
No, you don't have to have a chandelier in your grand ballroom, but for the record, our Drossen has 2. Morocco sheds some light on one home accessory that stands out in any room.
Hey, how are you? It's good to see you. How you doing? Come on in.
Whitney Cole's historic home in Georgetown, South Carolina, exudes a charm all its own.
Does he have a name?
You know, we've gone back and forth, but Percy is one that's kind of stuck with me.
But it's what's hanging over Percy that's the real showstopper.
The peacock's great, but the chandelier really is the star of this room, yes?
Oh, yeah, no, I agree.
Cole, an interior designer and mother of 3, loves chandeliers.
It has much more clean lines to it. You know, it's a little more simple.
Which is why almost every room in this house has one.
They're so unique. I've heard them described as they could be a pair of earrings. So,
right,
you know.
A chandelier is, simply put, a decorative hanging light with branches for bulbs or candles. They hang in casinos, houses of worship, and in opera houses, where they've been known to crash.
You gotta get a chandelier.
Chandeliers made for a classic Saturday Night Live sketch.
Look at this one. Look at that one.
But traditionally, they've been no joke.
You need to set the whole ambiance, and that's what a chandelier is really all about. We have chandeliers from the beginning of American history.
Charles Sable is curator of decorative arts at the Henry Ford Museum in Dearborn, Michigan.
This is probably the most spectacular chandelier we've got.
He oversees a collection of about 200 chandeliers.
In general, what do chandeliers symbolize?
Oh my gosh. Chandeliers symbolize aspirations
and grandeur. Take the opulent chandeliers at the Palace of Versailles, King Louis XIV's royal residence outside Paris.
It was all about wealth and projecting power.
And where could people without means see beautiful chandeliers?
In public spaces. Boston Public Library. Many beautiful chandeliers there, intended for the masses. You walk into a great, glorious public space and say, oh my God,
Right.
I've arrived.
For more than 150 years, Schonbeck, based in Plattsburgh, New York, has been making chandeliers. Their pieces can be found in Buckingham Palace and the White House.
It's a lot of moving parts to get something just right.
Senior product designer Rosalind Yando has been coming up with creations here for 35 years.
How do you want people to feel when they get a chandelier that you've designed?
Oh, I want them to love the silhouette and love the sparkle, but I want people to feel happy and to know that we take such pride here in our work.
And I did my best to do this Schonbeck creation proud as I added the very final touches.
Honestly, this is like my fantasy art project.
Okay, you ready?
But wow moments aren't exclusively about the shiny and new.
This is a piece that was in my house growing up.
Remember this beauty above Whitney Cole's dining room table? She found it at an estate sale.
It was literally sitting in a box on a table in a barn, just kind of propped up, looking very sad, but I just knew it was perfect.
Well, it's such a wonderful Cinderella story. I mean, dusty and just sort of dismissed and off to the
yeah,
side. And
yes.
Look at it now.
And it got all polished up, and the mice came and did their magic.
Throughout the morning, lucky Susan Spencer will be sampling some of Philly's finest foods, starting with its signature sandwich.
It's a Philly world.
For more than a few Philadelphians, cheesesteak is a sacred cow.
When you talk about Philadelphia cheesesteaks, you talk about it like it's some holy grail.
Yeah, I hold it close to my heart. I tell people that if it wasn't for, Pat steaks and Philly cheesesteaks, who's gonna come look at a bell with a crack in it? I'll probably die with one of these in my hand.
Frankie Olivieri is the third-generation owner of Philly's legendary Pat's King of Steaks.
To the non-Philadelphian, what exactly is a cheesesteak?
Thinly sliced ribeye on an Italian roll with onions and a choice of cheese.
Take note, the meat is thinly sliced. Sliced, never chopped.
Because, God gave us teeth. It's a steak sandwich. If you want to chop cheese, you go to New York.
God forbid.
Exactly. So for me, it's sacrilegious to chop the meat.
But this is sliced. This is not chopped.
Sliced. It's not chopped.
Another key to designing the perfect Philadelphia cheesesteak sandwich, brace yourself, big globs of old-fashioned cheese whiz.
How many do you think you've eaten in your life?
At least 500,000.
Clearly, a Philadelphia cheesesteak is so much more than just a meal.
You know that someone loves you when you're eating a Pat's cheesesteak, when you get down to the very end and that little corner piece, and it's all filled with onion juice and meat juice and cheese whiz, and somebody hands that last bite to you.
I'm about to pass out.
That's the person you stay married to or you marry. Find the justice of the peace and get married right there. That's love.
That's love.
The last bite of the sandwich is the best bite of the sandwich.
Some of Philadelphia's most distinctive buildings are the work of prominent 19th century architect Frank Furness. Robert Costa introduces us to a one-of-a-kind innovator.
Take a tour of Philadelphia.
Independence Hall, where 56 men worked on the Declaration of Independence.
You'll see where the founding fathers.
Then we got the Betsy Ross House on your right side here.
And mothers once roamed.
She outlived 3 husbands.
And you might spot the Italian stallion.
On top of the steps, the statue of the world's most famous fictional boxer, Rocky Balboa.
But there is someone who isn't mentioned on the tour, even though his influence is everywhere. Architect Frank Furness.
Furness is like Rocky. He's an underdog who can still win the big fight. The building was an astonishing spectacle of color, form, and texture.
Michael Lewis is the architectural critic for the Wall Street Journal and a Philadelphian.
There's no question that Furness was our greatest architect.
Does he deserve to be in the pantheon of American architects?
Absolutely, absolutely. And he would have been long ago if he'd been in Boston or New York.
Born in 1839, Furness became a captain in the Union Army and earned the Medal of Honor.
The heroism he expressed in the Civil War, his individuality and his fearlessness, is what makes his architecture most interesting.
Interesting and volatile, rumored to fire his pistol in the office out of boredom. That explosive personality translated to his bold designs of about 1,000 buildings, mostly in Pennsylvania, with their oversized arches, elaborate decorations, and asymmetrical facades, which broke free from the polite Victorian style. Rail stations, mansions, even banks.
A bank is not a temple where your money sits still. A bank is a machine where your money is set in motion and is lent out and creates more money. There were a lot of bank robberies in Philadelphia around the Civil War, and Furness's buildings look like they're ready for combat.
Back then, Philadelphia was known as the workshop of the world, and its industrial spirit is celebrated in his design of the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. Columns become pistons, and a museum evokes a machine.
You can see the metal.
Not only can you see it, but it's joyous. It's a celebration of the material, its properties, and look at the way he flaunts those rivets. And Furness had a knack for getting that buoyant spirit of his personality into his buildings. The buildings are funny, but to many people 100 years ago, they were unspeakably vulgar.
By the end of the 19th century, Lewis says Americans wanted a more orderly neoclassical style, and Furness faded in popularity.
Outlier, iconoclast, that every architect needs to know something about.
Now, only about 100 Furness buildings remain, but Philadelphia architects like Ian Smith still look to him as someone who embodies the attitude of this city.
It's hard not to love him because of being this individual that fights the current and is just outspoken. Now, we definitely take pride in Frank Furness.
This grand home has seen any number of guests on all kinds of occasions. Not all of them were lucky enough to pull up in a 1936 Auburn boat-tail speedster. But if they did, they might have had similarly luxurious luggage. Alina Cho in Paris offers us an inside look at one of the world's iconic luxury brands.
Inside a modest building outside Paris, you'll find a museum of sorts.
We made those hats for a collection that was called the Vampire Collection,
where more than a century of treasures are carefully stored and preserved.
How does it feel to be amongst so much history?
It's intimidating, but here it's always where you can find secrets.
Those secrets are in the hands of Nicolas Ghesquière, the designer shaping the French fashion house of Louis Vuitton.
The story of Louis Vuitton itself is the innovation. The man was the innovator in his process, in his development.
Louis Vuitton, the man, was born in 1821. The young French trunk maker built a company on a simple idea, a flat, stackable trunk. It replaced the old rounded tops and revolutionized travel.
Remember, Simi, no one here can know I am royalty. You must appear to be no different than the average man. I will not say a word.
Vuitton's luggage would become a status symbol and a favorite in Hollywood.
How does an unemployed girl with 3 roommates afford the patchwork denim Pauley Louis Vuitton bag?
It's rented.
I'm fascinated that the first was function, and then of course this absolutely exquisite elaboration that define what is luxury.
But isn't that what you do as a designer?
It's what we do. It's that balance between function, craftsmanship, and in the same time looking forward for new ideas and innovation.
That original idea lives on at the Vuitton family home and workshop on the outskirts of Paris.
What is your relationship to Louis Vuitton, the man?
I am the sixth generation of Vuitton.
Pierre Louis Vuitton, the founder's great-great-great-grandson, makes sure those famous trunks are still made, just as they were 172 years ago.
Why is this craft so important in your mind?
When they make a trunk, it's not a trunk for a day, it's not a trunk for a week, it's a trunk for a life.
There's also that calling card. The interlocking LV is among the most recognizable and copied symbols in the world. Today, LV is the world's largest luxury brand.
You have to forget that it's that big, because if you think too much about it, it's too intimidating, because every small decision you make at Louis Vuitton has a massive impact, economically, creatively, in every aspect.
When you're dreaming up a new collection, how much do you think about that original trunk?
Like a little bit of a fairy tale that I like to think about every season is like, let's open one trunk. What can you imagine is inside? What books would be inside? What colors? What memories of a person?
His Petite Malle, a trunk shrunk to the size of a small clutch, is a bridge from the company's 19th century origins to today.
And it's just big enough to put a phone and some keys.
It was so lovely to see you. I'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Jesquier gave us a peek at his latest collection, set to show this week in New York.
This is very interesting and exciting.
Sure to make headlines, a collaboration with the estate of the late artist Keith Haring.
It's going to be definitely for the clothes, certainly for the bags.
He says the key is the unexpected.
It could be a classic surprise, a colorful one, or something completely experimental. Fashion sells because people want new things, and not only new, they want to be different.
Because even a house built on history must always look forward.
We're at Chanticleer Garden, just down the street from Ardrossan. Jim Axelrod introduces us to yet another Philadelphia garden gem.
There are 1.7 million stories told each year about the magic of Longwood Gardens outside Philadelphia.
Kind of take it this is your happy place.
Oh, yeah.
Told by its 1.7 million annual visitors, like Kathy Wilson.
They say most people have three places. They have work, they have home, and they have a third place. This is our third place.
How do you describe what Longwood Gardens is?
It's the greatest garden in the world, and it's one of the most beautiful places that you will ever see.
Paul B. Redman is the president and CEO of Longwood, where meeting its mission to provide joy and inspiration through the beauty of nature is a matter of design.
This is stunning.
This is nature created by nature, but every inch of this 90 acres has been contemplated and thought about.
This intention's been rooted in Longwood since 1906, when industrialist Pierre S. DuPont bought a small farm to save its beautiful trees from being sold for lumber. Inspired by French, Italian, and English gardens, DuPont spent the rest of his life creating his dream oasis. Now 1,700 acres, Longwood has more than 10,000 plants and trees, and 13 indoor gardens.
When you are working within such a legacy as Longwood, do you feel pressure?
Sure. Of course you do.
When architects Michael Manfredi and Marion Weiss were commissioned to design Longwood's most recent addition, the West Conservatory, the centerpiece of a $250 million renovation, they knew they had a distinct challenge.
So this had to, in a way, respect the history of conservatories, the beautiful conservatory that's here, but find a new language. And how can we project that into, I think, a new century?
This is how. A 32,000 square foot crystal palace with a roofline that mirrors the surrounding Brandywine Valley and interior beams that suggest tree groves to create a sense of relaxation for Longwood visitors.
We're hoping that they will have an opportunity to leave the pressures of what it is they maybe have brought to this place, to discover something about this place, about themselves, and about a sense of potential. And that's what a garden is. It's always a place of potential.
Beauty, when it's done, it looks so simple, but the effort and the thought that goes into it, it's enormous.
Longwood Gardens faced the daunting design challenge of adding to a historic property how to polish the jewel and not scratch it. Take a look around. They handled it flawlessly.
You sleep well knowing that if Pierre S. DuPont were to come here today and walk around, he'd look at you and say, all right, well done.
I hope, or I would be out of a job.
I'm Susan Spencer. Believe it or not, once upon a time, pretzel twisters had the second highest paying job in Philadelphia, right after tobacco workers. But pretzels are still on a roll.
Have you ever known anybody in Philadelphia who did not like pretzels?
I don't want to know them. No, absolutely not.
Erica Tonelli-Burnett, who runs Center City Pretzel, says that the twisty, crunchy, doughy treat is the essential Philly food. No disrespect to a certain savory sandwich.
The city is so much more than just a cheesesteak. When you think about Philadelphia, I think the pretzel's the first thing that comes to mind.
The proof is in the production. She says she churns out tens of thousands of pretzels a week.
What is it about the pretzel that appeals specifically to Philadelphia?
It's just the convenience of it. I think for a city that is pretty much blue collar, we're always on the go. It's simple. You grab, you go, you eat, it's done. It does not require any utensils, napkins. It's not a mess. So this is what we're known for. This is a Philadelphia style pretzel, which is a figure 8.
How would you describe a perfectly designed Philadelphia pretzel?
Thick, crusty, small hole in the center, perfect amount of salt. Little bit of mustard. That's it.
Customers come in two camps, those who like the crunchy ends and those who prefer the doughy middle.
Can you tell anything about a person by which end of the pretzel they like?
You're probably a softer person if you like the doughier one, and if you like more crunch, you're probably a little bit harder.
Either way, no one's arguing with the price.
Single pretzel runs you 90 cents.
Not much you can get for 90 cents.
Not much you can get. And you can feed a family for under $5. So
on pretzels?
On pretzels. So if somebody is...
You're not recommending that.
I'm not saying it's a balanced food group, but I'm saying it is a food group, and we need carbs for our brain, so...
What's old, very old, is new again. Connor Knighton tells us all about the renaissance of Adobe.
Mateo and Laura Clark aren't just building their own house, they're making their own bricks. The Texas couple recently bought land in Taos, New Mexico, and have decided to construct their dream home out of the land itself, mixing the excavated soil from their lot with sand and straw to create walls of adobe.
Yeah, I mean, we've had hands in every part, every corner.
Yeah, I'll pick up a brick and I'll see a handprint of somebody, that helped make our brick, or maybe one of our own handprints. Yeah, there's been a lot of tactile, and it's almost, spiritual that people have embedded their fingerprints into the walls.
Maximizing that hands-on connection while minimizing their environmental impact is what inspired the Clarks to build with Adobe.
it's almost like an act of resistance for us, I think, to kind of rebel and go against the norm of what's expected, to be able to show others that that's possible and to have the resiliency to do it.
While Adobe might feel like an unconventional choice today, it was once commonplace, not just in the Southwest, but all over the world.
But we haven't changed the way you make a mud brick for 10,000 years. We can see Egyptian writing on the pyramids of people making adobes, and it's the same way we do it now. And it's the same word, Egyptian word atob, which is very similar to adobe.
Ronald Rael is an architecture professor at UC Berkeley and an Adobe evangelist. He grew up in a community of Adobe homes in Colorado's San Luis Valley, just north of the New Mexico border.
I could probably say with a certain degree of confidence that my family has lived in Adobe houses for the last several thousand years, continuously. And so I also feel like I'm part of an enormous legacy that I feel a little bit of responsibility to continue in some way.
The legacy of Adobe stretches from the mud brick skyscrapers of Yemen to the Taos Pueblo, churches, and homes of what's now New Mexico.
The oldest buildings on the planet are made this way.
It's a pretty low-tech building material.
One could say it's pretty low-tech, but you could also argue that it's very high-tech. If you think about inviting material scientists to come up with a building material that was low-cost, non-toxic, fire-resistant, recyclable, you'd probably spend millions of dollars trying to find what that material is. But humans have spent 10,000 years developing that material, a material that responds to every climactic zone on the planet.
Rael has been using advanced 3D printing technology to experiment with serpentine structures made of mud. The new 54,000 square foot building for the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum, currently under construction in Santa Fe, is combining sun-baked Adobe bricks with more modern steel beams and advanced humidity control systems. Adobe construction is labor-intensive, which means it isn't cheap. Unless you're like the Clarks and are committed to doing all the work yourself, Adobe can potentially be more expensive than other materials. Still, Ronald Rael believes our long history with Adobe provides something you just can't buy. A sense of belonging, baked right into the bricks.
When we enter into an Adobe building, people often say, wow, it feels really good in here, and they describe it as a feeling, and I think that feeling is connected to our humanity. We feel right in an Adobe building in the same way a bird might feel right in a nest.
Begin! 3 points. Winner!
There you go.
Did you teach him that?
Not me.
From Philadelphia, The Design Issue. Here again is Jane Pauley.
The Mandalorian was an instant streaming success when it debuted a few years back. After critical raves, its characters are now hitting the big screen. Tracy Smith visits with the creative force behind the show and the movie, director Jon Favreau.
You could say there's a Mandalorian. There he is. This is the actual N1 spaceship.
In Hollywood, you never know who you might run into.
Here's the Anzellan ship with one of our stars is standing there.
Oh my goodness. Yep, that's Grogu. Baby Yoda to some. Green, wrinkly, and undeniably cute.
The cute stuff in Star Wars tends to be a little weird looking too. It's not like Disney cute, it's Star Wars cute. He's got weird little hairs and sharp little teeth in there and wrinkly skin and claws. Right.
Yes, his claw. As director Jon Favreau showed us, that's by design.
There's an analog, handmade feel to a lot of the characters and a lot of the costumes and a lot of the puppets from Star Wars.
In the Star Wars world, Favreau is a force. He created the Disney Plus show, The Mandalorian. Think of it as a space western with a blaster-wielding bounty hunter who protects the tiny but powerful alien, Grogu. Favreau's new movie is based on the show.
Hang on.
The Mandalorian and Grogu comes out this week. It's the first Star Wars film to hit theaters in nearly 7 years.
You will suffer.
And apologies to Pedro Pascal, who plays the Mandalorian, but his co-star tends to steal every scene.
Let's save the rest for after dinner.
Did you know when you guys created Grogu that he would blow up like he did?
We knew it would be exciting. We didn't realize quite what a phenomenon it would be, and then when we saw the balloon in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, that's when it kind of, as a New Yorker, it really hit me, like, wow, this has really hit another level.
Yeah, what was that like for you?
It's the whole thing's surreal.
To a young Jon Favreau, growing up in Queens with his father, his mother died when he was 12, Hollywood really felt like a galaxy far, far away.
I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't think being an actor or doing artwork, any of that was a realistic possibility.
That wasn't even in the dreams?
I don't think so. No, I like doing it like in a school play, but I just didn't live in a world where that was a possibility. Fortunately, I had, people in my life like my dad who he was a school teacher but loved what he did. And I learned early on that you should expect that of a life and of a career.
So he dropped out of college and started taking improv classes in Chicago.
Victory, victory, that's our cry.
And at age 26 was cast in the football classic, Rudy.
I gotta go.
And it was a really inspiring film. I thought once I was discovered with that you wouldn't look back.
So once you did Rudy, you thought you were set?
I thought I was in. And I did get an agent and I did get to go on auditions, but it didn't really pop for me.
All right, just forget it. Forget me? You should forget it. You're living in the past, man. You hung up on some clown from the 60s, man.
He got a few small parts here and there, but he seemed destined to be just another struggling Hollywood actor until he took the advice, write what you know, and turned all that rejection into his first screenplay, Swingers, which became a movie with his buddy Vince Vaughn.
You're so money and you don't even know it. That's what I keep trying to tell you. So money. Could you not mess with me right now?
So much of Swingers' dialogue is classic.
Yes.
I'm sure people come up to you all the time and say, you're so money.
Still, yeah. Well, people my age, but there's also younger people who do.
You think we get there by midnight? Money, we're gonna be up 500 by midnight. Yeah! Vegas! Vegas, baby, Vegas!
It was really a snapshot of where we were living in Hollywood as out-of-work actors. A lot of the dialogue either came from or was inspired by conversations that we had had. The movie didn't make a lot of money, but it opened a door for a lot of us to pursue careers in a more meaningful way.
Sorry!
Favreau had enough juice to start directing. Elf, starring Will Ferrell, was just his second time behind the camera.
The hope was, could this be something that could join the pantheon of other movies like Christmas Story or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Charlie Brown, that show every year that become part of the tradition. Not just here, but around the world, people know that film.
And 3, 2, 1.
Elf's success led to another huge directing job, 2008's Iron Man.
Did your improv roots come into play with Iron Man?
Yeah, always. Because in film, you just need a moment. You just need a twinkle of the eye or an unexpected delivery of a line or a reaction, and that breathes life into this.
Fine.
What
Put
do
that
you want
on
me
the
to do?
table over there. That is irrelevant.
Oh my God.
Some say Favreau's style, mixing cutting-edge technology with crowd-pleasing characters, made him one of Hollywood's safest bets for big-budget spectacles.
Especially when you have a very effects-driven genre, you want to have moments of spontaneity, inspiration, humanity, because people, at the end of the day, people just care about people. That's what they focus on. That human interaction, those emotional relationships.
And that human connection, even between aliens, is what Favreau thinks makes The Mandalorian and Grogu click.
It's like the father-son relationship that develops between The Mandalorian and Grogu.
And father-son relationships have always been a big part of Star Wars, and this is one of the most positive father-son relationships in Star Wars, and ironically, they're not related in any way, but it is a family of choice, and Star Wars has always been about families coming together.
After all, Jon Favreau, who's 59, still remembers watching the original Star Wars with his family. With this movie, he's hoping other families get to make memories too.
Take yourself back to that young kid sitting in a theater watching Star Wars for the first time. If somebody had whispered to you, hey, you're going to direct one of these these things?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was so unfathomable. To get the opportunity to do Star Wars for the big screen, it feels like you're getting a shot to pitch in the World Series.
Impressive.
I'm excited to introduce a whole new audience to Star Wars.
Seth Doan is sending us a colorful postcard from Finland, headquarters of famed design house Marimekko.
Spring comes late in Finland, but when the weather finally turns, some Finns head for community gardens.
I think this is the biggest one.
But they all have little homes?
Yeah, not all. Some are only gardens.
There are about 60 around the country, where folks can tend to 6,000 privately leased plots.
What are these little blue flowers everywhere?
It's called sinivuokko, some of the first flowers that we have.
Little signs of spring.
Yeah.
The gardens are inspiration for Maija Loekkari, who for the last 2 decades has been dreaming up designs for the Finnish fabric, homeware, and fashion company Marimekko.
I just draw and draw and draw, and afterwards I have a look what did I draw.
Proof of her more successful designs sit in her cabinet.
This is actually the siirtolapuutarha part.
This is the community garden?
Yes.
Her illustrations also make it onto massive pieces of fabric. Marimekko prints about 1 million yards a year. This is one of Loekkari's designs, based on the community garden. With names including seagull, stones, and bouquet, nature is a frequent, if abstract, influence for the company's bold, graphic designs.
What does Marimekko mean?
Marimekko means Mary's dress, a girl's dress, essentially.
Kind of the every woman?
Exactly.
Sanna-Kaisa Nico started as a sales clerk. Now she's a senior executive at the company's Helsinki headquarters, which is awash in patterns, whether on doorways, employees, or dishes in the cafeteria. Marimekko got a boost in 1960 when one of its dresses was worn on this Sports Illustrated cover.
To see Jackie Kennedy on the cover of a magazine change things.
That was a jackpot. Yes, absolutely.
In the 1970s, Marimekko's sheets and housewares were sold in the U.S. at stores including Crate & Barrel. More recently, they partnered with Target, IKEA, and Uniqlo. But for Finns, Marimekko has always been the brand.
I think almost all Finns have something from Marimekko in their home.
Injecting a little color to dreary post-war Finland was the idea behind this company, founded 75 years ago by Armi Ratia. Her husband owned a textile company, but their fabric designs were so bold, Finns did not know what to make of them.
So Armi then had an idea to create a fashion show to inspire people what to make out of the fabrics that they created.
So she starts having dresses sewn, has a fashion show, and
Yes.
it clicks?
Yes, indeed, immediately.
Finns tend to be a bit more sort of introvert and kind of quiet and polite, so it's this nice thing that sometimes the kind of loud side of your character may then come out through your garments. Exactly, or like a bold print.
Finnish fashion designer Irvin Latimer has never worked with Marimekko, but like everyone here, grew up with the brand.
They've created this Marimekko universe, right? And we're kind of now all walking in that.
Some of the designs in this universe have endured for decades. This signature poppy pattern, Unico, has been printed since 1964. Designer Maija Loekkari finds inspiration from what's right around her, or just maybe from something deeper.
Where does it come from?
It's coming from the Finnish DNA.
From the Finnish DNA.
Yeah.
It's deep inside you.
Yeah.
It's a Philly world.
I'm Susan Spencer. At Liberty Kitchen in Philadelphia, you will find 25 different kinds of hoagie, which raises the question, What exactly is a hoagie?
I'm an alien, I just landed on Earth. How would you describe a Philadelphia hoagie?
We start with our sesame seed roll. Then we do a little drizzle of our dressing. Then we layer our 3 deli meats, followed by our house-made hoagie relish. Then our onions, our tomato, our lettuce, and then we finish off with a little bit of oregano.
Translation, it's a giant sandwich, made to order Philadelphia style. And if you're executive chef Bo Neidhart, it's practically a basic food group.
How many hoagies would you eat in a week?
3, probably. Like, safe to say. That's not great.
At least 3.
I would say 2.5.
Are you telling the truth?
I think.
Legend has it Philadelphians have been living on hoagies since World War I, when shipyard workers packed them for lunch.
Have you ever had a hoagie for breakfast?
Yes.
You're not ashamed of this?
No.
Today, the city devours tens of millions every year.
So what are you going to make here today?
All right, well, we're going to make our famous kale Caesar.
Neidhart showed us how he designs the Kale Caesar Cutlet Hoagie, a Liberty Kitchen concoction that went viral a few years back.
I am here to tell you this was 100% worth the hype.
Fried onions, kale, dressing, chicken cutlet on a seeded roll.
This is one of those classic maneuvers where you take it, take your knife, you put it down in the center, boom. Now you can eat it. There you go. No, just kidding.
You wouldn't argue with the notion that Philadelphia has something of a love affair with the hoagie.
Oh, it's without a doubt. It is a lifestyle. It is Philadelphia. Hoagies are Philadelphia.
Martha Teichner has been busy mapping out a story nearly 6 centuries in the making.
This is called the Upside Down World Map?
Yeah.
Okay, then. What's up?
Australia is in the center and is on top.
So there's nothing that says that North has to be on top?
Absolutely nothing. So the same atlas.
Matthew Edney is a professor of geography and cartography at the University of Southern Maine and the map guru at the university's Osher Map Library in Portland.
This is our oldest map in the collection.
From 1475, a chronicle of Christianity.
We have Moses receiving the tablets, but then in the foreground, we've got the contemporary ships of medieval crusaders.
Open to the public, the library has 500,000 rare maps, globes, and atlases, the combined collections of 2 main families. Look at these, a Braille map of the United States. The land of make-believe as a real place. A property map George Washington drew in 1750 at the age of 18 when he was working as a land surveyor. Can anything be mapped?
I think so.
Libby Bischoff is the Osher's executive director.
I collect a lot of maps made by women.
Emma Willard published this one, the founder in 1814 of the nation's first school of higher learning for girls, saw the history of time as a temple.
On the pillars are key events or people. So for the 18th century, we've got John Adams, Washington. Everything in gray is pre-Christian.
Non-Western civilization missing. In 1616, John Smith, a founder of the Jamestown colony, published this map.
It's the first map to call New England, New England.
And a bold act of provocation.
It's disputed between the European powers, the French, the Dutch, and the English. Of course, it's occupied by the ancestors of the modern Wabanaki.
What's the point?
Well, to assert English ownership. Place naming is intimately political.
Speaking of maps and politics, what about that ice block of a political hot potato, Greenland? How big is Greenland really?
Greenland is much, much smaller.
It looks so big thanks to 16th century mapmaker Gerardus Mercator, his flattened out version of a round world. The standard classroom wall map in some places still distorts latitude and longitude.
So as you go up towards the pole, away from the equator, North Pole or South Pole, everything is being stretched out sideways. The book's 1662.
Maps have been around a long time.
Certainly we have records of maps that survive going back to 600 BCE for the first world map.
I look at Michigan, which looks like it's been squished.
Part of the fun of old maps is seeing how wrong they were before explorers finally got the geography right. So, in today's world, are maps obsolete? At the Osher, the answer is an emphatic no.
Historical maps help us envision how other people knew and understood their world, and we can track how that worldview changes over time.
Something your GPS can't do.
We leave you this Sunday back at Chanticleer Garden in the city of brotherly love. I'm Jane Pauley. We hope you've enjoyed our stay in Philadelphia. Please join us when our trumpet sounds again next Sunday morning.